Hello everyone and welcome to another What I Think review, and today we're going to be looking at some of the new figures. I say these are new, so at the time of recording these haven't been announced, but obviously by the time I get out this review and I get permission to put it out, they may have likely very well been revealed. So this is the History of the Daleks set number 13 for the 5 Doctors, which rather than having 2 Daleks, this time features the Death Zone Dalek and the First Doctor, but this is the First Doctor as played by Richard Hurndall, so it is a brand new First Doctor variant. But of course it's not just the figures inside that are brand new, we have a new box identity, new box cover, art, whatever you want to call it. I love it. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. Obviously we've got the History of the Daleks set, information on the front, we've got logo on the top. This side we've got History of the Daleks set number 13. This side we've got History of the Daleks set number 13. This side does have what it features, and then if we turn the set around on the back here, you can see that we have information about the 5 Doctors, and then we still also have this lovely behind the scenes bit of information. I love the fact that we're still getting this behind the scenes information. I think it's absolutely fantastic, well worth getting this little bit of extra information about what's in the set, because it tells you all a bit more about why, obviously for obvious reasons, but you've got Richard Hurndall playing the First Doctor, but also gives you a lot of information about this Dalek, which I think is absolutely fantastic, especially for the Dalek in this set, given how unique and unusual this particular Dalek is. But just before I get on to actually opening it, I would just like to say one more thing about the box. Now, obviously the previous B&M boxes we had got, the first ones we had the standard sort of windowed pack with the insert that then had all of the detail around the side, and you could get a good view of the figures inside. That I think was what I would personally I would say that was the best design of box, but again, I appreciate the company needs to reduce on plastics. There was a lot of plastic in that set, in those sets, especially with the plastic inserts and things like that, and it would need to be reduced. And the way that it was then reduced was that the box stayed the same, but the outside window disappeared, and you had this sort of inside bubble pack as it appears here. But obviously the box was entirely sort of open on this side because the window had disappeared, and I think, like many people, I think that was a bit of a mistake. It did make the box a lot more flimsier, and it did make it more difficult to put them back in the boxes to display them. So I'm very pleased to say that this box is obviously much more sturdy, it's much more rigid, it's got sort of all sides to it. But I have to say they've stuck with the bubble pack, and I think this box is a step in the right direction, but I still think this bubble pack is a mistake. Again, because I think people would want to get these out of the boxes to have a look at them, and then want to put them back in the boxes to display them. As you have seen in previous videos that I've done, and I'm going to do it for this one, but I won't show it, is I use a craft blade to sort of cut around the back cardboard section so I can lift the Dalek, and hopefully the same with the figure out on this one, and then put them back in the box. And it is a way of doing it, but it is a little bit convoluted. So going ahead, if I was to have any sort of, my criticisms of this box is obviously that it's still got the bubble pack, but if I want to give some constructive side to that criticism, what I would do, in order to reduce the plastic on this, tie the figures to the back card of the box, so there's no plastic actually inside the box, they're literally secured by ties, and then simply have one single windowed sheet of plastic across the front, because that single windowed sheet of plastic, I would imagine, is a lot less expensive to produce than these sort of bubble packs and things like that. So just simple ties, like either the wire ties, or even like the B&M sets we get. They've got like the sort of I think they're made of sort of paper ties and things like that. Obviously they're biodegradable, they are recyclable. So if I had anything to take away from this box, as I said, I love the overall style. It's certainly improvement over the previous ones, but just tie the figures to the cardboard backing, and then just have a single window over the front, and I think that will really make them so much better, because at the end of the day as well, I have to say, the thing with having this backing on it is it's still very easy and again, I'm not condoning people doing this, but I feel that I need to raise this, as I raised it with the previous ones. It would be very easy for someone to come in, rip this off, and take the figure out. You know, whether that's kids, whether that's adults, either way, it's a wrong thing to do, but people will do it. If you've obviously got the plastic window on there, I appreciate you could turn around and go, well, people could just push in the plastic window into it. Yes, they could, but I think if you had that plastic window there, it's less obvious for people to do that if that was secured. And also, even if they push the plastic window in, with the figures tied to the box, they've really got to put a lot of work in to rip them out of the box and get them out of the box. So I think that would be a better way to go forward with these boxes. I love the design. You know, I love what they've done with this. I think it's a vast improvement over the previous sort of trimmed down versions that we had for the Dalek sets. But yeah, if you want to reduce the plastic further, simple window, tie the figures to the back of the box. That's the only criticism I have to say with this, and as I said, I want to offer something that's constructive at the same time. I would assume that going ahead, the other figures in the History of the Daleks range are going to be the same sort of thing, so hopefully they might be listened to and it might be changed. But going ahead, I don't want to try and bring this up, but I think it is going to be one of those things that going ahead in my reviews, I think I will refer back to this one just to say whether, you know, if it hasn't been done, please see that review in regards to what I think of it. But that's enough on the box. Let's have a look at what we've got inside. So here we are, starting off with the Richard Hurndall First Doctor. Absolutely fantastic to see this finally get a release. It was prototyped up many years ago, but that is something which, again, I'm going to come back to in a minute in the video. Overall, this is your standard First Doctor figure. Obviously, it's got the change of the head, and it's also got the nice gloved hands. I have to say, I don't know why, but I really love the fact that we've got the gloved hands. It would have been one of those things that would have been so very easy to miss. So actually making sure that they're on there I think is a really good thing to see. Overall, as I said, it's a First Doctor figure, but there's just something about this figure, and I don't know what it is, because even the more recent First Doctor figures we've had, they've all had their sort of bits of cross-hatching and patterning on the clothes. And whilst this was a very plain costume, the lack of cross-hatching and patterning actually really makes this stand out as a variant. Not just, you know, because of the head sculpt and things like that, but it really does look the part and is absolutely fantastic. And I do have to give them full props for really sort of realising this. I have to say as well, one thing that I do want to bring up, unfortunately, there were some leaks. I'm not going to go into that territory because obviously many of you who watch my videos will know my thoughts on that. But one thing that I've seen from several people is saying about how, you know, it's a shame that we didn't get, you know, they didn't have the longer coat and that they've gone for the sort of standard coat on this figure. Now, I understand where you're coming from. I do. Don't get me wrong. I want to try and keep this positive, but thing is, with this set, not only have we finally got a brand new head sculpt, the Dalek, which we're going to come to in a minute, has got new pieces and things like that. So if you're really, if people are really focusing on the coat and the fact that they didn't bother with a longer coat, I think that is a little bit, it's understandable why people would want it, but I think it's a little bit unfair. You know, because yes, you know, we all want accurate things, and yes, I agree, it would have been nice to see the longer coat, but we never thought we would get this figure. We never ever thought we would get this figure, and now we have it. And I think, you know, it's important that we should be more grateful for the things that we are getting, because, you know, if it's a case of, you know, we were never going to, you know, we never thought we'd get the Richard Hurndall figure, and for years we're like, when are we going to get the Richard Hurndall figure? Why don't we have it yet? Why don't we have it yet? And now we finally got it, and people are like, well, it's not exactly what I wanted. Yeah, but you've got it now. Sorry, I'm trying not to get into rant territory here and get annoyed, but I hope you will understand where I'm coming from on this. You know, we've got it. Be happy that we've got it. Even the original prototyped figure didn't have the longer coat. So, you know, yes, it would have been nice to see, but you can't have everything. Be happy that we've actually finally got it. And on that note, let's have a quick look on the head sculpt, because obviously that is one of the main focuses of this particular figure. So here's a close-up on the head sculpt. I think it's a fantastic likeness of Richard Hurndall. They've really done him. They've done him well here. Now, one thing that I will say on this as well, I don't know if it's come up already again, because I don't exactly know myself when this video is coming out, whether these things have actually been officially announced or revealed or not yet. But if it does come up at some point, which I'm sure it will, I can confirm this is not the original tooling as far as I am aware, because I know that Al himself has said, and I think he said it on a couple of forums and posts, that the original tooling was either junked or lost, or possibly a mix of both, for the original proposed Richard Hurndall figure. So this is a brand new head sculpt that we have that we've had for this figure. So again, it's fantastic that they're using the budget that they have to do these sorts of things, and why, you know, I think it's good that they're actually really focusing on giving us these sorts of things with these new variations, because it really does look the part. It's fantastic to see, because there are so many characters out there who have not yet been realised, and if it means having slightly inaccurate costumes, I personally would much rather have a recognisable head on a slightly inaccurate costume than an accurate costume and then trying to use a head that only vaguely looks like the actor or actress. I think it's a wonderful thing to see, and they've really done themselves proud with this particular head sculpt. But now let's get on to having a look at the Death Zone Dalek. So here we have the Death Zone Dalek. Fantastic looking piece, I have to say. Really does look the part. Now, first things first, I will say that I think a lot of people are going to pick this up. There are inaccuracies on this, but I think there are limitations and understandables as to why it is inaccurate. Obviously, the Dalek itself was made of a hodgepodge of many parts. It was battered, it had chunks missing and things like that. And for example, as it spins right here on the right hand side, obviously most notably it had slats missing, it had a chunk taken out of the dome and other things like that. I can understand why these are not on this figure, because it would have meant having to make some extremely unique parts that could not be used on anything else. So I would say that I don't think that CO should be marked down or have any criticisms made for saying, well, it had missing slats, it had chunks taken out of the dome, it had this, it had that. It did, but again, you've got to think they have to budget and make those things and then put them into production, and that is never going to be used on anything else. It is only ever going to be used for this one Dalek. And I know that there's going to be people out there who are going to turn around and say, yeah, but they could have just gone out and cut out the slats. Yeah, but think about how many they've had to produce. They would have to do that by hand. Even if they did it by machine, it's still time and money and things like that. So I really hope that people don't overly criticise this Dalek for being inaccurate, given that I think it is a nice simple one to see. It's a nice simple variant. Obviously there are other things that are slightly inaccurate, the different eye stalk. I perhaps personally myself would have put a different eye stalk onto it, but again, I'm not going to take back limitations, and it's the smaller details that I think are nice on this. We've got some new dome lights. Now those dome lights probably aren't going to be used for anything else. They're probably only going to be used on this one, so the fact that they went to the effort of doing that, I think is much better. It definitely makes this Dalek more... Having those dome lights makes this Dalek much more identifiable as the Death Zone Dalek than it did if it had missing slats, put it that way. It's got the little, as it spins around, you'll be able to see it's got the little orange, the orange bit inside the gun. Obviously it has the leaf petals on the actual thing, but again, it would have meant making a whole new gun that would have been very brittle. So even just having that nice little bit of orange in there looks fantastic. The obviously most noticeable thing, or one of the things I think is the most notable thing, apart from the dome lights, is we have this new gap here in the midsection. And minor spoiler alert for a future review, that has been used on some other future figures, which I will be putting up in a review either the same day you see this, or perhaps it's a bit later, or even a bit earlier, I don't know myself. But we have this nice new little interesting piece, and I am now going to do something which I have never done in these reviews. As many of you will know, I don't like to use my advanced samples for customs, or take parts off them in any way and things like that. But given the fact that I know it is not going to damage the figure and that it will be very easy to put it back together, and because I think, like me, many people are going to be interested about this neck ring arrangement with this extra piece, I'm just going to do a quick disassembly and see how this goes together. So here we have the Dalek with the dome off and the neck rings off, and I have to admit, a little bit stumped, because obviously the new bit with the neck rings is a new piece, like this here, and we also have a new taller dome fixing on it, but I honestly, genuinely, I can't work out how they've managed to fit this on, because unless I'm being really thick, this Dalek body doesn't seem to have been altered in any way, nor have the neck rings, because I have here, out of my box of spares, a broken bit of a Dalek, and I don't know how easy this is going to come up on camera. This is a difficult angle to do it from. I should have picked a better angle. But that dome fixing is the same height. Now, obviously, the new part sits on like that, giving you the gap. We then have, obviously, the neck rings, as I've slowly put them back on. Again, I've measured these up against standard ones, and as far as I can tell, all of these neck rings are still the standard parts. These are not new neck rings. These ones haven't been altered or anything like that. They are literally as standard. Have I got that one on the right one? I think I have. Yeah, these are all as standard, so these aren't new parts. I think I've put this on the way around. So I am at a slight loss. I've made a complete mess of this, haven't I? But I'll talk while I'm doing it. This is part of the beauty of doing it, taking it apart. Yeah, so I'm at a slight loss as to how they've managed to fit in that extra space, because as you can see, everything is going back on the same way it did before. No, hang on a second. Hang on a second. No, it doesn't. So, I didn't notice this when I took it apart. The neck rings are now not flush with the top of the dome, and that's why you have the higher dome piece. So, the neck rings and the mesh, that's the word I was looking for, is still the same. All they have done is put in a new bit at the base down here and lifted the neck rings up slightly, and then obviously when you've got the taller neck piece with the dome, obviously that sits back on there, and it now means that it looks like it did before. It actually isn't taller. It is taller, but the parts haven't been changed. Literally all they've done is taken a bit of space away from the top and moved it down to the bottom, and obviously to compensate put in the new neck piece. So there we are, mystery solved. That's how it's been done. Very effective way of doing it. You know, I know that there are probably people out there, myself included, I have to say actually before I did this, who perhaps are wondering, is this a new bit of a Dalek sculpt? Have they changed the body? Have they changed the neck rings? Has things been made smaller or taller and things like that? There's your answer. What it is a simple new piece underneath the neck rings and a new dome fixing. Secrets of the trade, people, there it is for you. So there we have the new History of the Daleks set number 13, The Five Doctors. Now, one final thing that I would like to make a note about on this is this is History of the Daleks set number 13, and obviously the next one will be number 14, but it does make me wonder if now we're going to get these a bit more out of order, because between Destiny and the Five Doctors we had Resurrection, and the Destiny set was set 12, this is set 13. So is Resurrection going to be set 15? Because I do wonder if they've missed out Resurrection for a reason, and this is just purely my own speculation. I wish to make this incredibly clear. But we didn't get... we did get a Genesis History of the Daleks set, and then we got a Genesis of the Daleks creation set with Davros. So I have to wonder, because I know they said they weren't going to do it, but to be fair, they said that they probably weren't ever going to do a Richard Hurndall figure, and yet here we are. So I leave you with a question. If Resurrection is not coming, are we going to get a Davros number 2 set? let's keep our fingers crossed, people. As I said, this is very much my own speculation. I'm not saying anything or hinting at anything official there, but I have to raise that question, and I really do cross my fingers, literally right now, crossing my fingers, hoping that that is going to be the case. But that brings to a close another What I Think review. As always, I hope you'll enjoy this video. Like, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot. And be sure to description below for a link to my Patreon. I am still doing my figure animation. There is an update coming on it very soon. But in the meantime, all of your donations to the Patreon are greatly appreciated. And for the smallest donation, you can get your name at the end of my videos. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.